Greetings, my fellow gamers. 'Tis I, Wraith King, and welcome back to the Dark Kingdom. I am your host, Wraith King. Today we are taking a look at one of the most anticipated games, ever. I don't think I've ever seen a game this hyped before. And I have to admit, I do feel like the hype surrounding this game definitely played a part in its fall, because nothing could live up to all of those expectations that we'd had over nearly a decade. That being said, a lot still should have been delivered to this game that was promised. And after playing so many games over the years, I have to admit I am getting quite irritated with seeing developers promise things and then never have those things in the game. But I didn't entirely have that weight on my shoulder once I started up this game, because it's CD Projekt Red, a company that is known for being really kind and honest about their games. So I was looking forward to a really good game. I didn't get that. But with all that said, is Cyberpunk awful? Is this the game that deserves all the massive backlash everyone has been giving this game recently? Even as I upload this video, there are plenty of people making other reviews completely slamming this game. But is it really worth all of this fuss and all of this anger? Well, that's what we're getting ready to talk about. Now let's start out with one of my favorite aspects of every game, and that's the gameplay. If a game has good gameplay, people are going to keep coming back to it no matter what. Cyberpunk is definitely an RPG to its core, with upgrades, leveling up, and numerous different weapons, with the rarities including common, uncommon, rare, epic, and of course legendary. There's even some unique weapons that have the title of iconic that can be upgraded to their legendary quality and have some really interesting perks that no other weapon really has. Following these really interesting weapon variants, there's even skill trees that you can upgrade and customize to whatever your liking might be. Let's say you have an obsession with machine guns like I do. Well, you can upgrade the body tree and increase damage with machine guns and shotguns. You can even increase the critical damage these weapons do, and probably my favorite perk on this tree is increasing damage to bodies so I can hipfire a lot more. Another interesting part of this tree is you can increase your melee damage and efficiency in hand-to-hand combat. However, melee in this game is very, very underdeveloped. It seems like it was just thrown together at the last minute because it's very clunky, and dodging is tied to the same button as crouch, so whenever you dodge, you crouch. It's really, really frustrating. Hopefully it does get updated in the future. But aside from the small irritations with hand-to-hand combat, it can be pretty fun, especially with the cyberware you are allowed to equip to yourself, called the Gorilla Arms and the Mantis Blades, which we all know very well from the trailers. But melee aside, the best part of the combat in this game is definitely the weapons themselves. The range combat is definitely the better part of this game, with all of the different unique weapons, especially the iconic weapons. And speaking of the iconic weapons, there are really interesting ways that you can get all of these weapons throughout the game, whether it be story or coming across a couple in an alleyway, or maybe even fighting a really powerful gang leader. And my favorite interaction that found me an iconic weapon was dealing with 6th Street, one of the many gangs that are a part of Night City. there was a contest involving shooting. Now, if you won in first place in this contest, you would be awarded a really powerful weapon. But what made this encounter so interesting is you can just kill everybody in the contest and just take the weapon, which is an interaction you don't really see in games like this very often. Encounters like this definitely make the world feel alive and make it feel real, and that's rare when you have an open world game. Most open worlds feel very dead, not Night City. This game definitely feels alive, even with its numerous glitches, and the fact that they didn't exactly make the world as alive as they promised, it still feels very lived in, which is another very rare quality that most open world games just don't have. And it awards you for exploring. You'll find hidden lore scattered around the map. It could be on a dead body. It could be in one of the gang territories where you have to fight a boss and take his weapon. All of that just makes this game worth playing, in my opinion. The detailed world, although of course it's not as massive as, let's say, GTA or Elder Scrolls, it's still a really big world and it has a lot of detail in it. So let's move on from the gameplay to the story. The story in itself is another good thing about this game, although the glitches are extremely annoying and you will hear me talk about them many times in this video. It just really does ruin the quality of the story and the gameplay when you run into glitches that will crash your game. A car just crashing into a wall out of nowhere. There's even been a situation with me that completely ruined one of the quests where I had to restart from the last checkpoint, or I could distance myself from the vehicle and fail that part of the quest. Of course, that wasn't really an option for me. And it involved a car chase to where I had to follow a vehicle into a Maelstrom territory, another one of the many gangs that roam the streets of Night City. But during this chase scene, the vehicle teleported through the ground and into a crowded area, and it got caught on some stairs. And the environment was just starting to load in, and beneath me, I even noticed that the stairs that were supposed to be there weren't really there at first, but then after a few moments, they appeared out of nowhere, and then I nearly fell to my death. Luckily, I saved myself from impending doom there, and I was able to see what exactly happened to the vehicle, and it was just stuck. Now I could either just leave the area, or I could load my checkpoint, but this was too hilarious not to record. But here's my take on the bugs. I have a physical copy, and I'm noticing that a lot of the players who are experiencing some of the greater bugs seem to have a digital copy. Now, I don't confirm this, I'm no expert, but it's just a theory. And maybe I'm experiencing less bugs is because I have a physical copy. But moving on from there, the glitches can be very distracting, particularly the FPS errors that I have experienced through my playthrough, and I was actually lucky to get very few because other players get them pretty much all the time, making the console version of this game almost unplayable, which is very immersion breaking if you're looking to just play this game for its story. Speaking of which, let's move on to the campaign. This is extremely detailed and very deep and mature, just as they promised. But again, the glitches strike back and ruin everything there too. There are some hilarious glitches that completely destroy immersion in this game, and it is inexcusably bad sometimes.
Save your strength, Jackie.
What do you think I'm doing? But Sylvie will get out alive.
Tell Bug, why don't you? Maybe she'd still be alive if we hadn't been so gung. Oh,
Don't take this out on me. I can see how the chips are falling.
So even with this amazing story, the game still suffers from the most common issue that I've experienced throughout my entire playthrough, and that's bugs. Not to mention the so many things that they promise that are just simply not in the game. Now, I didn't pay too much attention to the constant trailers that they released every once in a while, and I have to admit I'm glad I didn't, because through my first playthrough, I didn't pay attention to any of those. I didn't even watch them. I just enjoyed the game, and I didn't exactly watch any of the reviews until I actually finished my first playthrough. And I'm glad I didn't, because my opinion on the game would be much worse, to the point where I would have just asked for my money back. There are so many in-game mechanics, so many options that they just didn't put into the game. Interactions with the environment, the ads, the citizens of the city, the density of the crowds in the city. It is just crazy how many things that they took out of the game just to push it out as quickly as they possibly could. If I had known that so many things were taken out of the game, I would never have even bought this game. I would have waited until they actually released some of these things that they had promised. Now, with that said, the trailers that I did see, they did make sure that we were aware that it is a work in progress, and a lot of what we saw is not really representative of what would be in the final product. However, it's been recently proven that the 45-minute trailer that they released a while ago was mostly fake. Somehow, I'm not surprised. And don't even get me started on the so-called customization that was promised. There really is just not much here as far as customization is concerned. In Cyberpunk, however, the only real different thing that's here is the option to customize your genitals, and it seems practically useless. There's just no reason for that to be in the game other than nudity. And you know what? This might be an unpopular opinion about the nudity, but I can't stand it when video games have it in there and just have zero reasons as to why it's even there in the first place. It's just like they put it in there just because, haha, look, nudity. Wow, I'm mature now. I mean, you have the advertisement and the dolls, but it seems rather useless outside of nudity. Let me give you an example of when maturity actually feels impactful. Berserk, great example. The manga especially is filled with a lot of adult content, but the reason it's there isn't just nudity. It wants you to feel horror. It wants you to feel how Gutsu felt throughout his life. Angry, frustrated, terrified, and the manga does an excellent job of displaying his feeling. But don't get me wrong, Cyberpunk does do that in here too with the advertisement, and throughout the story it does have those things in it, and makes you feel how the main character would feel about these things. Irritated, angry, disgusted. But the customization, the option that's there for your genitals and for your other private areas just seems useless. Like, why is this here? Why? No one really says anything about it, it's just there. Now, there is something that Cyberpunk does that other mature games like it just don't seem to do. You can actually censor the nudity in this game. All you gotta do is press a button in the settings and the game doesn't have nudity in it anymore. Which definitely gives this game some extra points, at least for me anyway. But moving on from there, let's talk a little bit more about the romance options. Me personally, as a Christian guy, I try my best to avoid that, but if you're into it, well, it's definitely here. And pretty much every character I've encountered so far is interested in V. But I don't think it's as grounded and reality as some people may have thought it would be, to where you can't exactly romance everyone you see on the screen. You can only romance the characters that are deeply affected by the campaign and the story. So if you see somebody you really like, you think they're pretty, sorry, you can't bang everybody, guys. That's just not how it works. Let's say you thought the girl at Clouds was cute. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. She's not involved with the story. But let's say you like Judy. Well, she's not into men, so sorry, guys.
Look pretty damn fine in that wetsuit.
Don't go there, dude.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But that's kind of how reality works. There's not always a situation where you can date someone. Not everybody's going to be into you. It's not like you can just walk up to anybody and be like, hey.
We're bang, okay?
That's not how life works. I'm sorry, folks. And I have to give them a lot of credit for trying their best to make this game as realistic as they possibly can. When you're in a relationship with these characters, it actually feels real. It feels like these people care about you. And just stunning job from all the voice actors. The writer, just an amazing job with the campaign, really. That in itself, the story, the way these characters feel about you, everything about that is perfect. This game is just amazing as far as the story is concerned. And even if you have a connection with these characters anyway, let's say you beat one of their side mission, there's actually unique endings that you can get with some of the characters, and that's really cool. My favorite has to be Panam's, though. And there are plenty of endings in this game. Don't worry, I won't spoil anything. There are plenty of them in this game that are really cool. There are some that are dark, and I didn't even get some of them. There's a secret ending that I have yet to get, but it's a really fascinating ending. So the story itself is great, but all of that in a package that's just wrapped up very poorly. Not to mention the shards of broken glass you have to dig your hand through just to find the good game. So in this game's current state, I just simply cannot recommend it at all. Not just because of the bugs, but there are so many things in this game that was going to be in here, but they gutted them out because of time, and they wanted to push this release out as soon as they possibly could. And that doesn't seem like CD Projekt Red at all, but it comes to the reality that it is who they are. This is what they do. They are a gaming company. They're a corporation. It's just that they gotta make money. They're a company. This is what they do. And I know a lot of people are upset with them and saying, oh, they promised that they were going to release this amazing game. They say it's the gamer first. No, that's never what it is when it comes to these companies. When you have these multi-million-dollar corporations making video games, it's never about art anymore. It used to be about a passion that some people had. And yes, I'm pretty sure there are people who were behind this project who created it because they wanted to make a work of art. I'm sure it was, but on the higher up side, they didn't really care about us in that fashion. They want to make money. And this game was unfinished, and they knew it was unfinished, but they didn't really care. They wanted to push it out as soon as they possibly could so they could make the money. And that's the sad truth, I'm afraid. So, my personal opinion on Cyberpunk, my rating, it has to be the new lowest rating I've ever given on a game on my channel ever. Cyberpunk 2077 gets a D. The story and gameplay of Cyberpunk is like a platinum trophy signed by all of the creators. A beautiful work of art that would look great on anybody's shelf. Problem is, it sits on top of a gigantic pile of stinky, dirty trash and broken shrapnel and glass. All of that being the bugs, all of the promises that weren't kept, all of the content that would have been great in the game but was gutted out to cut time so they could make as much money as they could early. All of the negative feedback that this game has gotten so far, it honestly deserves. But there is a good game in here. And with a little work, I wouldn't be surprised if this game is going to be what was promised. However, I have a feeling that's going to be a while from now, and none of us paid for an unfinished game. We wanted a finished product, and we wanted to play the game that was promised, and of course we didn't get that. So that's what gave this game a D. But that's my take on Cyberpunk 2077. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy the game regardless of its bugs, or did you get very few bugs and you don't really care what was missing in the game, you still enjoyed it? In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video, my fellow gamers. Please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe so you too can be a part of the Dark Kingdom. But until next time, take it easy for me, and please do have a blessed day. Bye.